Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Texas Backyard. And tonight, this evening, we have Dr. Johnny Teague, who is pretty well known in the community across Harris County and Fort Bend County because of his involvement in so many activities that actually help the community in various forms and ways. Thank you so much, Dr. Teague, for joining us tonight at the Texas Backyard.
Thank you, Mo, and please do call me Johnny.
Okay. Well, so that we can get into this right away, Johnny, so that our viewers can know who don't know about you, because that's what our goal is, to reach to viewers who don't know you because of your various activities. If you can tell us introduce yourself to us.
Well, I'm Johnny Teague, and I'm running for Congress. I am by vocation a pastor. I've done a lot of things in life. I have worked for Shell as an accountant. I've worked as a manager for SCI. I've worked for Pfizer's pharmaceutical rep. But right now, in the last 21 years, I've been a pastor. I'm a rancher, been a full-fledged rancher my whole life. And we have lots of Black Angus cattle. So when we hear about the grocery store shelves empty, I'm thankful my freezer's full. And then I'm also an author. I've written 3 books. Thankfully, they've won awards and they're doing well. And life is wonderful. I love life. I love people. I love all the blessings God's given us. And so that's who I am. I just cherish every moment. Honored to be with you today, Mo.
Thank you, Johnny. So this is the first time I'm actually doing this, where I'm going to actually ask you to say what your social media and your website is, so that people can get it now, people can get it in the middle, and then people can get it at the end of the show too. So what is your website? My
website's johnnyteague.com, JohnnyTeague.com. My Facebook page is Johnny Teague for Congress.
All right. Thank you so much, Johnny.
Thank you.
So if we can go back, and we can go as many years or decades you want to go back to, when did you start feeling that it's time to start doing not stuff for Johnny and family, but for others?
Well, that's a good question. I think we're created for each other, and we're created to honor God and care for each other. And so my family's always had this conviction that we need to serve other people. We put people first above ourselves. We always brag on other people. We always talk about not false flattery, but tell them what we really see in them, so that we can give some affirmation of the impact they're making in our lives. So that's always been our drive in my family. My granddad was county commissioner for many years. My dad has done a lot of things. My great-granddad used to haul people back and forth to church. I even bought a bigger horse and buggy so he could get more people there. I guess maybe by God's grace, we believe in putting others first. And if we do that, then everything works out good for us. So that's why at the church we feed 1,300 families a month. That's why at the church we give $2,000 to $4,000 a month to help people with rent. That's why the church I pastor, we work to get the prostitutes off Bissonnette. That's why at the church I pastor, we give scholarships for kids going to college, and we give rewards for kids who make good grades. I really believe if we put others first and we care for everybody, and we try to lift everybody up, it gives us a great feeling of completion and satisfaction, but it also gives us the opportunity to make our world better than it was when we got here.
So when did you decide that you wanted to get into this race? And if you can tell us what district it is, where does it cover, what areas around here, and when did you feel that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and run in this race?
Well, I ran in 2020 against Al Green in Congressional District 9. And I ran there because I don't like the way our nation's headed. We have left the Constitution, and we've left God's Word. We have left those moral, I told someone the other day, we've left the ethic of God's Word, and we've left the governance of the Constitution. And that would be fine if it didn't affect our lives. But we see that our kids in our schools are being indoctrinated and not taught math, science, history. I have 5 college degrees. I believe in education. My wife's a teacher. But they're teaching nuances instead of the basics that are going to make our kids, let them be blessed later on and also benefit our country. We see on every metric from 2020 to today, every metric, things are in great decline. We can complain about it. You and I can be on your great show and we complain how bad the world is, or we can do what you do so well, and that is try to make a difference. So Mo, your backyard thing is trying to make a difference. And that's when I really felt the conviction in 2020, I'm going to run. Lose, win, or draw, we're going to make an impact. And then when redistricting occurred, I found myself in 7. And 7 goes from Main Street downtown to Hillcroft, covers Montrose, follows 59, the Energy Corridor, goes all the way to you. You're in my district.
Yes.
And goes to Sugar Land. So it's a good-sized district. Got wonderful people. It's an area I've worked for 21 years as a pastor and a counselor in the school. I even drove a school bus when they were short of drivers for 3 years, because we are here to make a difference. But Jesus said, if you're faithful in the few things, I'll give you responsibility over larger things. So I've tried to do everything I can where I am, and I feel like this is an opportunity to maybe make an impact at a larger scale. And so that's why we're doing it.
So by the way, this used to be CD9 where we're sitting.
It was.
Yeah. And now it's CD7.
Yes, you came with me. Thank you for moving with me, Mo.
You're welcome. So where do you live right now?
I actually live north of the district, and I had to live a little bit north. I lived in the district for over 20 years. I've been in Houston since 1986. January 13th, I moved here with Shell Pipeline. But we had some incidents I shared with you off the air that made it necessary for us to move. And that was for the safety of our family. And so we are just a little north of the district.
So where are you originally from?
I'm from Glen Rose, Texas, south of Fort Worth, north of Waco. Still working the land that my great-granddad worked. And we raised Black Angus there. My dad was a railroad worker and a rancher. My mom worked at City Hall, and then she was a church secretary, and then she worked at Dinosaur Valley State Park in Glen Rose. But moved here after I went to Tarleton State in Stephenville, and played quarterback for the football team. Got Offensive Player of the Year. Played semi-pro here in Houston for 4 years. Got all-star quarterback, took us to 2 championship games. So Houston has been my home and my life since '86.
All right. How many brothers and sisters? How many siblings?
1 brother, and then we have an adopted sister.
Older, younger than you?
She is younger. And in fact, let me take it back. I have a whole brother by the same parents. I have a half brother, and I have an adopted sister. So to give you full disclosure.
4 of you, okay.
Yeah, but we're a lot older. My brother and I are a lot older than the other 2.
Okay.
Almost 17 years older.
Oh, wow. Almost like your
Heck
kids.
of a gal.
So what is your platform? What are the items, or what do you think your actionable items are in regards to your campaign?
I think you're asking the most important question, and I think this is why people are watching us. People in Washington think they're smarter than us. They think they're more capable than us. There's this mentality that they're so gifted. We've even seen Republicans who are just like you and me, and once they get elected, there's this elitism that comes. And I believe, Mo, that I can serve in Congress just as easily as you can serve in Congress. I do not believe it takes someone with some high intellect, but I think it takes someone who knows life, knows people, and has experience in this life. So I'm going with a simple platform, the ABCs of government. A, we need to randomly audit every election. I'm not saying any one election was fraudulent, but for the sake of both winner and loser, wouldn't it be great to know that election was legitimate? I think I can accept losing if I know it's legitimate. B, balance that budget. We're $32 trillion in debt. We are hamstrung with what we can do if a crisis arises. We cannot build our national defense. We can't meet needs of people. And honestly, we're about to go bankrupt. And so we've got to balance the budget. I'm an accountant. I know how to balance a budget. We need to control the borders. Those borders are wide open. This year, Joe Biden rejected a woman who was in our country, diplomat's daughter. She left our country to marry an ISIS warrior. This actually during the Trump administration. She married the ISIS warrior. He got killed. She tried to get reinstated after saying death to America, bombed the Super Bowl, set up bombs for the parades and the marathons. Well, once her husband died, she wanted to come back to the United States. Trump rejected it, and thankfully President Biden did as well. Here's what scares me, Mo, with regard to our borders. She could come through Mexico and enter just as easily. And so now we've got a radical Islamist who can come in very easily. Our borders are open. We've got to close them. We've got to control them. We've got to build up our national defense. China is threatening Taiwan, and Russia's threatening Ukraine. I honestly believe they are working in concert. And with this weak administration and weak Congress, I believe they're going to act at the same time within the next year. And we'll do nothing. President Biden said in this news conference today, we can't get all involved in these minor infractions across the border. What he just telegraphed was, Russia, you can do it. It's a minor altercation.
Right.
We've got to build up our defenses, and our enemies need to know we can respond with force and power, not to use that force, but to really cause people not to want to act out or act against us. Education's the ABCs. Parents need to have the primary say in how their children are educated. You've got two beautiful daughters.
Actually, three.
Three, I meant two.
Yeah.
Mo, you and your sweet wife need to know what your kids are learning. And you need to know if they're saying anything that's counter to what your faith is and what your beliefs are and your morals are. So I believe firmly we have got to restore education to the parents. Fuel is the F of the ABCs. Oil and gas is primary in our country. We can do it clean. We can do it effectively. We can do it efficiently. But we've got to defend oil and gas. When we go clean energy, and that's fine, wind and solar are great. But the bad thing with wind and solar, they're not dependable in a hard freeze.
Right.
And they are not efficient. If it wasn't for government subsidies, they wouldn't be able to make the bottom line. Oil and gas is our strength. China has the rare earth metals. If we rule out oil and gas, which the Biden administration has cut production, cut the pipelines, the next thing you know, we're going hand in knees before China saying, please give us what we need for our batteries, for our vehicles. China and Russia need oil and gas. We have oil and gas. We should be the dominant, not them. And then last but not least, and I'm going to skip some letters, I believe in term limits. 8 years, get the heck out. No one should be in office more than 8 years in the House, more than 12 years in the Senate. George McGovern was the most liberal Democrat you ever saw. He ran against Nixon. He was slaughtered by Nixon. After McGovern lost that race, he left the Senate and went back into business. Actually went into business for the first time. He went bankrupt 3 straight businesses. His last editorial in the Wall Street Journal was this: I wish I would have been in business before I went into government. I would have made better laws. I earnestly believe if you have term limits, not only do you go in with some experience, but you leave to live under the laws you pass. And if you know you're going to live under those laws you pass, you're going to pass better laws. So I'm a firm believer in term limits, and I also believe we need to remove the perks. You can get health care and retirement while you're serving. But once you leave, just like when I left Shell Pipeline, they don't still pay my health care, and they don't still give me retirement. I got it while I was there, and that's the way it ought to be in Congress.
Great, great. So in regards to your campaign, are you looking for volunteers?
No, thankfully, people can always join us, but we are well volunteered. I don't use money, and we don't pay anybody.
Oh, wow.
We have so many volunteers doing so many things, and it's not to brag. I'm thankful. Part of that's because I ran in 2020. when you run the first time, people don't really know who you are. You're trying to build yourself up, try to give some people some faith in what you say. But after you run, and if you do prayerfully a good job, people kind of believe in you, and they start trusting you, and they know you're a person of your word, you're going to treat people right. And I've never seen so many volunteers pour in. By God's grace, we're getting every endorsement. So we're doing okay, but people can always help. Tell your neighbors, text your friends. We'll never turn anybody away, but we're doing great, thankfully.
So what's your website again, please?
JohnnyTeague.com.
All right, and your Facebook?
Johnny Teague for Congress.
All right. So in regards to your border wall, I'm going to go with one of the items that you mentioned, or security at the border.
All right.
What are your thoughts about, are you for the wall? Are you against the wall?
Completely for the wall. We've got to have borders. Even Europe's finding that to be the case. Greece is finding that to be the case. In fact, it was Buchanan, who ran for president several years ago, was the first advocate for a wall. And everybody thought Pat Buchanan was out of his mind. Now we understand he actually was a little ahead of his time. We got to build the wall, but there was something interesting, Mo, in our country. We had 60 years where we shut down all immigration. 60 years. And the reason was they believed so many had come in that they weren't assimilating. They came, and you've got an American flag, you believe in America, but there are some people who come in, they don't really love America, they don't want to be Americans, they don't want to learn our language. We love them for sure. I care for those people as well at my church. But we need to give people time to understand what it means to be an American, to get some skin in the game and understand we're one team. And my family's from Ireland, and I celebrate Ireland. My wife's family's from Czechoslovakia. We celebrate the Czech Republic. But we're Americans, and we love it.
Sure.
And I think we need to close the borders. I don't think we need to completely shut down immigration. I think we need to be a lot more selective in making sure that we're bringing people in who can be self-sufficient. Right now, the Biden administration's offering free health care, free education, free housing for people who come across. Well, heck, if I lived somewhere else, I'd come too.
Yeah.
The sad thing is, and this is what I think a lot of the Democrat constituents are understanding, Biden and his administration want to give more to people who've never been here than they want to give to our own people.
Exactly.
And so the swing voters are moving our way. For the first time ever, 47% of Americans identify as Republican, only 42% Democrat.
Right.
That is something that hasn't happened in 70 years. So I don't want to sound harsh. I have fought for asylum. We have many Iranians in my church. And we have fought for asylum because they wanted to be Americans. They gave their hearts to Christ. They became Christians. To go back to Iran would have meant death and separation of their children. And so we have fought for asylum, and we've won every time. I go to the court, we bring our church family, and we win asylums because we want people here, no matter where they're from. Give me your tired, you're hungry, your huddled masses, what the Statue of Liberty says. We believe that. But make sure you're coming for the right reason. So anyway, we need to close the borders. We need to get a good handle on who's here. We need to take a little time to get a breath, assimilate a little bit. But anyway, you could go on. It's a complex issue. I'm a simple fella, but I think that is a way to start it.
And your number one item that you mentioned about auditing elections. Mm-hmm. So if you can briefly tell us, how do you propose that? I
was an accountant for Shell Pipeline. We got audited all the time. And so what we did, because we knew we'd be audited, we made dog sure every work we did, every financial we did was accurate and exactly what it was. We didn't hide anything because we knew we were going to get audited. And somebody's going to jail, and I didn't want to be me. To run for Congress, you got to make sure you aren't a felon. So auditing an election is very simple. You randomly select, hey, we're going to audit CD9's election, you know, it's interesting. In my district I ran in 2020, the Chronicle said that it's a honest election across the board, the Trump all the way down. It was interesting. After they declared the victory for President Biden, they pulled over a van in my district, your district, and they had 120,000 ballots in that van already filled out. They didn't make it to the election, but we need to audit these elections, and I believe an audit has to have teeth. So we audit the Senate race in Utah, we audit the presidential race in Georgia, we just do random audits. We audit a county race in Harris for judge. And if we find that there's fraud, then that election is null and void, and we redo it. And we hold anyone who's found guilty of fraud guilty of a felony. You pray you never have to use that, but you've got to have that control. And that's why I rejoice in the Texas legislature really closing down on mail-in ballots and showing your ID. Man, if you're an honest person, that's what you ought to want, is an honest election. And if we lose, we lose.
It's kind of surprising, you know, that I need to actually show my ID to buy cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or to buy alcohol.
Or to check out a book at the Harris County Public Library.
But it's okay for me not to have an ID to go vote. It literally doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And, you know, they're saying it's suppression of the minority votes. Well, the minorities are voting in higher numbers than ever before. So suppression's not working if that's what they think's going on. The other thing is, it is an insult to my church family members. We're African American church. It's an insult to my church members to say that they can't get an ID, they're not smart enough. When you can't have a bank account without one. The truth is, everybody's got an ID. It's just you need to show it when you vote. It's really not forcing them to get an ID, it's forcing them to show it. And so we've got to do it. We've got to do it. So we've got to win this race. We've got to take back Congress. Because if we don't, all these irregularities and all this lawlessness will continue.
Awesome. Tell us again, what is your website? And if you don't mind, if you can share us where your church is also.
Thank you. My website's johnnyteague.com. My Facebook page is Johnny Teague for Congress. My church, which we love so much, we started with 16 people. We grew to almost 1,000, and then COVID hit. And so now we're coming back up to about 400. But we're at 3835 South Dairy Ashford in Houston, Texas. We're in the A-Leaf area at Dairy Ashford and the West Park Tow. We've got the sweetest people you'll ever meet. Our sign says on the front, "Come just as you are," and then we mean it. We want people to come however they are. We have homeless people come. We put a washer, dryer in our church in the back so our homeless people can wash and dry their clothes for free. We let them live back in tents sometimes if they're in transition. But we accept everybody. No matter if you look good, you smell good, we want people to come.
What is your church called?
Church at the Cross.
Church at the Cross.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Teague, for joining us tonight. And guys, you have heard his website, you've heard his Facebook page. You can actually just go Google Johnny Teague and various web links are going to come up. I mean, he's been in the game for a while, whether he's doing community service or been involved in politics for the last little over 2 years. So you can find a lot of what you call digital footprint on the web. Look him up, read about him, call him or text him or email him for questions, or call his campaign members. And for this video itself, which is the Texas Backyard video, please share with your friends and family in Fort Bend County, in Harris County, and in Texas also, because we want to put the word out about the candidates so that people themselves can do their research and judge for these primary elections who to vote for. Now, what is imperative that as a Republican, you have to, and if this is the first time you're voting, you have to ask for the Republican ballot. You have to make sure you ask for the Republican ballot, because that's when you're going to see all the Republican candidates over there. And if you have any question in regard to this, again, you can reach out to Johnny Teague's campaign, and I'm more than sure that they'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have in regards to voting and so forth. Early voting starts on February 14th. It ends on February 25th, and election day is March 1st. Again, thank you so much, Johnny, for joining us tonight over here. Heard a lot about you. First time, met with you in person where we could extensively talk to each other and learn a little bit more about you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.